Hello, you're listening to Abstract AF. I'm Sneha Jaiswal, and I'm going to quickly go through 12 titles that have come on streaming platforms since November, meant for the holidays, and if you should stream or skip them. So, number one on my list is Scrooge, A Christmas Carol, an animated children's film which is quite faithful to the original classic by Charles Dickens. So if you're not looking for something different, you would absolutely love this. It's a musical, has some cute songs, not exactly memorable, not something like we don't talk about Bruno from Encanto, but still it's quite entertaining and available to stream on Netflix. Number two is called Meet Cute, a romantic sci-fi comedy that stars Kaylee Cuoco and Pete Davidson as the romantic leads. I found their pairing to be awkward and that Kaylee Cuoco couldn't act well in the emotional scenes, but otherwise it was a very interesting film about a woman who has access to a time machine and keeps reliving the same date night over and over again because it was one of her best days in her life and she doesn't want to know what happens next. So it's actually a story about trauma and how it can be extremely hard to move on and that people don't want to come out of their safe spaces. With different actors, this could have been a brilliant film, but I think it's still pretty watchable and nice, so you could stream it on Amazon Prime. Okay, number three on the list is called Christmas on Mistletoe Farm, about a father of five little kids who's widowed and inherits a large farm from his own deceased father. So they all go to live there for a while, but the kids fall in love with the place and want to stay there forever. I thought this was a very campy, silly, brainless film. I couldn't watch it. I thought it was pretty unbearable. But if you're looking specifically for a children friendly, silly film, you might like it. Stream it on Netflix. I would say skip it. There are a lot of better films to watch. Okay, moving on to number four. It's called Spirited, another Christmas Carol adaptation that stars Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell in the lead. It's a really exciting, loud, Christmassy movie. I just didn't like the song so much and I thought that the runtime could have been shorter and that because there are two stars in the movie, they tried to divide the screen time equally because they've been given the same kind of paychecks. So what happens is that the focus of the story is split into two protagonists, and while that can work, I feel like it didn't work very well in Spirited. So I gave it a 5 on 10, but I do feel like a lot of people would love this film. So if you are a fan of musicals, stream it on Apple TV, otherwise skip it. Okay, moving on to number 5 on the list, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which is obviously an adaptation of the famous Italian classic. But what I like about this film is that it has a definite timeline and is not set in once upon a time. So the story unfolds in Italy in the 1920s. This version of Pinocchio also includes Pinocchio getting caught up in the ugly world of war. This is also a musical and has stop motion animation work, which is simply breathtaking. I loved the visual cinematography of this movie, and just for that, I would say stream Pinocchio on Netflix. Number 6 on the list is Your Christmas or Mine, a romantic comedy that has very little romance and even lesser comedy. I mean, it does have comedy, but I didn't think it was funny at all. So the story is about how a couple is at a train station going to their own homes for Christmas, but at the last minute, both of them decide that they'll surprise the other person by going to their house. So what happens is that they end up having swapped Christmases. This was extremely boring for me, and I would say that skip it, but if you still want to give it a try, it's available on Prime Video. Number 7 on the list is the Noel Diary. This isn't your typical cheery Christmas romance, even though it is set during the holidays. It's about this author who goes back to his childhood home after almost 2 decades because his mother's passed away, so he inherits the house and is there to sort out her belongings. And there he meets a woman who claims that her birth mother, who had given her up for adoption, used to work for his family and that she's trying to trace her. So how these two strangers fall in love with each other is the story. So I feel like this would have made a great platonic story about two strangers trying to reconnect with their families. It doesn't work as a romance, but otherwise it's a watchable drama and you can stream it on Netflix. Okay, next on the list is Something from Tiffany's, starring Zoe Dutch and Kendrick Sampson. It's about how two men who are buying something for their girlfriends at Tiffany's accidentally end up exchanging their gift bags, and that leads to some confusion and an unlikely romance between two strangers. Now, this film unfolds in New York in Christmas, so it has some gorgeous shots of the city all decked up for the holidays. And while the plot is a little unrealistic, I think it was a really good romantic film for the holidays. So just stream it on Prime Video. Next on the list is Angel Falls Christmas. It's about a workaholic doctor who'd rather spend her Christmas Eve at work than with her boyfriend. So he obviously dumps her, and soon after she meets a handsome stranger who tries to reawaken her dead Christmas spirit. I really did not like this film at all. I thought it was extremely plastic and that the actors couldn't act, and I would say just skip it. The next title is also a Christmas romance. It's called Christmas with You, starring Amy Garcia and Freddie Prinze Jr. Again, this is a slightly unrealistic romantic tale about how a big pop star meets a random fan for some inspiration and ends up falling for her dad, who's a music teacher. It sounded a lot like Jennifer Lopez's Marry Me, but at least Marry Me was entertaining. This one had some really forgettable songs, and unfortunately I feel like Freddie Prinze Jr. has no charm anymore, but if you are a die-hard fan or something of the actor, stream the film on Netflix. The 11th film on the list is Slumberland Death, stars Jason Momoa and Marlo Barkley. It's about this 11-year-old girl, Nemo, who loses her dad and desperately wants to see him one more time. Now, Slumberland is a land of dreams where if Nemo can find some legendary pearls, it could grant her one wish. So she goes on a crazy adventure with a man called Flip. On the surface, it feels like a wild fantasy story about the land of dreams, but Slumberland is really an escapist adventure about coping with loss. This film has received a lot of mixed reviews, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great children's film, and that it did have a lot of places that it could improve, but obviously nothing is perfect and you can stream it on Netflix. Now to the last title, Falling for Christmas, starring Lindsay Lohan. This is about a rich brat meeting with an accident, losing a memory, and falling in love with a very humble and not so rich guy. What I really liked about this film was that it had this joyous Christmas spirit throughout the film. It never gets too dramatic, doesn't try too hard, and maybe I'm a bit of a Lindsay Lohan fan, so probably I enjoyed it more than I should. So for me, I think it's worth a stream and available on Netflix. So yeah, that's it. Those were the quick reviews of 12 holiday titles that you could stream or skip. Have a great day and talk to you the next time.